I misunderstand what a pundit is.
I think the actual technical definition is if you have an opinion that reaches more than just a few people. So, and maybe it doesn't really apply to me either, but our opinions do matter, and they do reach out to some people. So, I think
Let's do something. Let's make a quick change. Pull that whole contraption closer to you so that you're not having to click your neck. There it is.
There we go.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Well, I've been following you quite a bit on Facebook, and you've had a lot to say lately.
I have had a lot to say lately, but there's a lot to say right now.
There is a lot to say, and what do you say to the people who are saying, "I've had enough"?
Of
How about let's just say Chick-fil-A? There is a lot of complacency happening now, where people are like, "Oh, I'm just so sick of that. I just don't want to hear any more about it."
Well, all right, let's put it on the other foot. The people who are saying I don't want to hear about it are not the people that it's actually affecting, are they? So,
No, and
some,
really,
yes.
I really specifically want to talk about the people in our community who are saying, "I'm just so sick of it. If I have to hear about Chick-fil-A one more time."
Well, then I really need to think they need to face, who they are and what they're fighting for in their life. Chick-fil-A is an issue that is so important to all of us because this is people saying, I don't want you to be able to get married. I don't want you to be able to have fundamental rights. I'm going to give our customers money to organizations that will do anything to keep you from having those rights. I'm going to give our customers money to organizations that are paying to support bills that kill you in other countries. And if it can happen there, it can happen here. So this is not something you can get tired of until the point is driven home and we have equality in this country.
And so how many, are you experiencing any of that apathy?
A little, not too much, but especially like, for example, on Facebook, if you say it to me, I'll just block you as a friend. So I don't listen to it because to me, this is my life. If it was a heterosexual who, I said this, and I believe this, if this had been Chick-fil-A giving money to an organization that advocated skinning puppies to make fur coats, people would be going nuts from here until the end of time. But because it's something that makes them relatively uncomfortable, people's sexuality, they don't want to talk about it anymore. But if it was skinning puppies, you'd have everybody in the country going nuts until Chick-fil-A was gone.
I love skinny puppies.
Skinny puppies.
Have you ever had one that's been barbecued?
Puppies? No.
It's not.
We just do kittens, not
We're having some growing pains. As you don't know, Rational Broadcasting closed their studios, and so we've all kind of gotten our own studio-ish.
Ish.
And this is mine.
Well, this is charming. I'm just glad you had me over to do it.
What has changed in the last 20 years? We were talking briefly before the show about you being here for 20 years. What big changes have you seen in 20 years?
In Dallas, or?
Sure, in Dallas.
I think Dallas, like the rest of the country, and I don't know if you agree, but I think it's slowly becoming more tolerant in larger sections. I think we still have a huge group of people in the city that are, no matter what, want to impose their rights and say, you can't have what I have. But I think that's nationwide. I don't know that it's this. Now, this is obviously, a conservative state, but this is a big change. Dallas is now voting for Democrats in the county.
Yeah.
We can't win statewide, but we do win citywide and countywide. So that's a big change. And I think people are becoming more tolerant. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's ever going to. I think Texas will be one of the last places to get better, but I think it is better.
I don't think it'll be the last place, but I think it'll go kicking and screaming. I just get really disheartened by so much of the political correctness, so much of Christianity, and I used to get really offended when people would say, I don't really care if you're gay or not. I just don't want it rubbed in my face.
That's the same as say that to a gay person. That's the same as saying God hates fags. Just don't say that, and don't say I don't mind the sin, I mind the sinner. Just go ahead and say God hates fags. It just is. It's more direct, and I can deal with you then. But if you're trying to be nice, and say, oh, I just don't rub it in my face, or I remember the days when people just didn't talk about it. Well, I've been listening to you talk about your marriage and your sex life all my life. Now it's your turn.
Right. Absolutely. And so how is it any different?
I think more and more people are getting to know gay people. I think more and more children are coming out younger. Now that can definitely be to the detriment still of the child, but I think, and now we're talking about bullying, and I went through hell in school, and I don't know if you did, but I did. It was miserable up until I got into high school, and then it got better. Now at least we're talking about those issues, and people are saying no, bullying is not a good thing. And now we're talking, but is it completely better? No. Is it? No.
Well, speaking of bullying, yesterday I saw I saw an article about, this new little Jennifer, alias, what's her name?
Jennifer Garner.
Jennifer Garner. She's got a new movie out, and it's
Something
The
about
Odd
Green.
Life of Timothy Green. And, this movie is about a child who is different, maybe an alien. I'm not really sure. I've not seen the movie. But they're all like, oh, you've got quite a little boy there. He's really kind of odd and eccentric. And everybody's going, yay, okay, for this great little odd child. But the minute that boy comes out, and I'm going to put it into my life. I was quite a little eccentric little young man, and did things a little differently growing up, and my creativity was really kind of celebrated. And then I became a man, and it wasn't celebrated anymore. And so why is it that bullying is only bad when we're talking about children? Because I feel like even after I became a man, I was still bullied. And I even think that now that I'm a middle-aged man, I'm still sort of bullied. And so when does the bullying stop? And when are we going to get to a point where it's going to be realized that bullying doesn't end in the schoolyard?
Well, I think bullying doesn't end for. I don't know that it's necessarily just limited to homosexuals. Bullying
Absolutely,
happens to women,
I agree with that.
homosexuals, African Americans, anybody who's different. The status quo, and this is historically speaking, I mean, this has happened from the beginning of time, and probably, unfortunately, will happen until the end of time, or until we live in a Star Trek universe where, all humans get along. It doesn't stop. The thing about it is that I think we need to spread the word about minding your own damn business. That's one of my big things right now. Mind your own business. Keep your head up, do your job, do what you're supposed to do, and stay out of other people's business. If you're worried about their sex life, their reproductive choices, whether they choose to, who they're having sex with, whether they choose to be a female impersonator, whether they choose not to be a female, it's stupid. And gay people, and I'm not limiting it to just straight people on gay people. Gay people can be horrible to gay people. I know gay people who say some really negative things about transgenders. It's all about minding your own business and doing your own thing, don't you think?
Absolutely. I honestly agree with that. I do want to say I don't feel like I get bullied anymore because I really don't care.
Well, you can bite back.
and that has really always been my saving grace. Is I've always had a mouth that was never afraid to flap. And so,
Me too.
when in high school, if I got called anything, I would have a retort that would shut them up. I never really felt like my experience was that awful. I didn't think that my experience was any worse than many others.
You didn't? See,
No.
Up until high school went fine for me. I grew into myself. I was in a hometown where I was fine, but my early childhood was awful.
Where did you grow up?
Military brat.
Okay, so you
I went
were
to high
all
school
over.
in Magnolia, Arkansas. So, but yeah, all over it. It was awful.
And so, why was it awful? Was it awful
We
because of?
moved around, and I was an effeminate little kid, and it just, kids, I looked like a little stick figure growing up, and then the minute I hit puberty, the fag thing came up, and that's all I heard was "you're a fag," et cetera, and it hurt. I mean, and it was constant until I got into high school. Mom had a little money in that town, so people didn't want to mess with me because she might foreclose on your house. So they left me alone.
Good old mom. My experience was that I was an alien in an alien land, and everybody was really kind of afraid of me
Where'd you
anyway.
grow up?
I was born in Connecticut, and then I moved to Alabama when I was almost 12, 11 years old. And so I was just an alien. And was kind of everything about me was odd to them.
Kind of a Truman Capote childhood.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, and so I really didn't have it that bad. Extremely effeminate, yes. But I was a swimmer, and
I was too. Yeah.
and so I kind of surrounded myself with other boys that were like me, and so my experience really wasn't that horrible. I look back on it and think it I think that my straight brother, had it worse because he had acne so terribly bad.
See, in high school, I went into the closet and didn't come out until into college. I did come out in college, but
the thing that I find most ironic is, we are called faggot from such an early age.
I think all
that everybody
boys
knows.
are. I think all boys are. I think that's a common term in
Do
school.
you?
Yeah, I do. Because I remember knowing that word meant something to me, but at the same time hearing other guys call straight guys that, thus teaching a derogatory term and making it acceptable. But if it is you and you know it's you cringe extra hard inside. I think in some ways, the reaction that we have if you are gay when you hear that word can make it worse.
Do you think that we'll ever get to a point where having a gay child is celebrated rather than mourned?
I don't think that was the case for a while, but I do think we are starting to get a little to that point with some people who've known gay people, who have gay friends, girls who like gay men and then go off and finally find a husband and get married. You're seeing that more and more. Gary and I, my husband and I, had a friend who kept saying she wanted her son to be gay, and he is now in high school and straight, and she's a little disappointed. She's like, but I had 2 sons. My husband got one. I wanted one. And I blew it. So, yeah. So, but again, here she was trying to nurture him into being gay. It's not it's a nature thing. It's not nurture. She couldn't make her kid gay.
Yeah. I recently had a conversation with someone, and I asked them if if we found an article, an actual written document from Jesus himself saying that the only way that you can get into heaven is to be a homosexual, how many people are going to change to become a homosexual?
None, because, and that's exactly the point that I was talking about that you commented on Facebook the other day. Our problem with Christianity isn't the religion itself, especially the New Testament, is not a mean document. I mean, it's not mean. This is the way Christians are interpreting Christianity. And that's a choice. They're making it a choice to take something like Leviticus and be completely negative. So if all of a sudden we said Jesus Christ was a homosexual and really likes homosexuals and that's the way to get into heaven, they wouldn't interpret it that way. They would make it, it doesn't matter what the Bible says, because if you've heard some of these people talk about Chick-fil-A and why they're supporting it, they don't know what the Bible says. I mean, they're clueless. It's like, what?
And speaking of that, have you seen that... Have you seen that little video of the woman who was actually talking to the people in line?
I did. Wasn't that amazing? It was scary. I didn't know if I should feel relieved or really terrified.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing because it's just really horrifying. It was really horrifying at some of these people said. The whole, and the woman. One of the funniest ones was, the woman was talking about, the Constitution and that it was written into our Constitution that only one man and one woman should get married. And the girl behind the camera said, "Oh, I think I had some audio problems. Would you repeat that so I can hear that?"
People believe it.
And she repeated it exactly the way she said it, and it was all wrong.
People who quote the Constitution so often have not read the Constitution, and even if they have, they don't understand it. The Constitution does not guarantee hate speech. It doesn't. Free speech, yes, but not hate speech. And the free speech in the Constitution is guaranteed at free speech towards the government, not towards each other. But it's not worth explaining to people because you see the glazed overlook and you try to explain something and they'll ask me, well, how do you know? Well, I was a political science major. Well, what does that mean? It means I got a degree in that. I'm supposed to know that.
How versed are you in the Bible?
Some. I took a lot of history of religion classes, and I actually, am a Methodist. So, and I have read the Bible numerous times, but I've also read supplemental books. For example, there's a book written by, I don't know if it's Matthew or Mark, and I love this story, and it talks about Jesus killing a bird, or Jesus seeing a boy killing a bird on the beach. And his reaction was to wish the boy dead, and the boy dies. He goes into the temple and he prays for forgiveness, and he isn't forgiven by God. He's later forgiven when he realizes that the ultimate sin was to offend in the eyes of God because he broke a commandment. You tell that to a Christian that Jesus wished, or a fundamentalist Christian, or one that's not educated in Christianity or the history of Christianity, they will come apart at the seams. Jesus didn't wish anybody to die. This was a story of his childhood that was excluded from the Bible by the Catholic Church, who during their ecumenical councils chose what went into the Bible. There's many other books by the prophets and the scholars of the Bible that were never included, that nobody's seen. And then they say, well, that was, God created the Bible. No, the Bible was put together by man from a bunch of books that were written by the same people that were included in the Bible. So,
Do you know anything about the book of Ruth?
your people will be my people.
Yes.
little.
And just the whole exclusion of the book of Ruth. Let's talk about Leviticus for just a minute. 'Cause I am there. Am I there? Just don't move. Don't move. Okay. Let's talk about Leviticus. Do you know what the actual words are?
Yes. Thou wilt not lie with another man, for it is an abomination.
And what exactly do you think that means? I mean, because you know what? I can't lay with you the way I can lay with Karen. Because it has to be a little different.
Actually,
Thank God it's going to be different.
I actually read recently that it actually may have to do with actual spoken lies. This was interpreted from the Greek and the Latin, and now it's I don't know. It's really interesting. There's so many different interpretations. I think but the point, I think what's really critical there for me is that interpretation. Even if you take it literally to mean something against homosexuality, there's so many other things in Leviticus that people don't listen to.
Absolutely.
So if you want to latch on to that one, then please go out and stone some virgins or non-virgins who got married. Please give your money to organizations that.
Well, and if you're a woman, you need to be silent.
But of course
I mean,
you do.
even just something as simple as women will be silent.
And do not leave the house if you're menstruating for any reason, and don't talk to anybody.
Well, yeah. And I believe that women should be in exile. They should go into exile when they're menstruating because the Bible says it so.
Well, and I really strongly believe that divorced people. Well, first of all, you can't get a divorce in the Bible, and if you are going to get a divorce, then you shouldn't be able to remarry. And I need a fast food restaurant to start supporting divorced people not getting remarried, because I want to go eat some sandwiches there. Don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bean burritos for don't get married if you got a divorce.
Well, did you go to Starbucks? I believe it was up on my damn microphone. Did you go to Starbucks on either Tuesday or Wednesday for the support of marriage? There, that's it.
There, we got it.
I got it.
You got it.
There.
Did
It
I
just
go-
needed a good slamming.
I did not go on those days, however, because I had something I had to do that day. However, I have given them tons of my money over
Oh,
there. So
you know what,
They've got enough, and
and
I haven't
so
been
have
to
I.
Chick-fil-A in 20 years, so.
It has been several years for me for Chick-fil-A. I have been on Chick-fil-A now for quite some time.
I have too.
About the money that they have been supporting or funneling into the anti-gay movement, as well as, and this is something else that's I think worthy of talk about Chick-fil-A. Is it's not just anti-gay organizations that they've been funneling their money into. They are also funneling money into organizations that are not pro-choice.
Oh,
And,
sure.
So when I see all of these women in line and they're just spewing all of this one-sidedness, I question whether or not they have all the information.
Well, and it's fine and dandy to be pro-choice up until the point that one of their daughters gets pregnant.
Yeah.
And then suddenly adoption doesn't seem to be an option for them. So, I can't tell you, in high school, I was thinking about this the other day. I knew 3 girls that I know got abortions in high school who are now rabidly anti-abortion. And it's like, it was, when you needed it, it was there for you. But now, it's this whole thing is, though, between progressives and conservatives. And what's really driving me nuts about that, and I don't know if it is with you, but, just the nature of the terms. Progressive means they want progress. They want things to change for all people. Conservatives mean they want to conserve the past. But they want to conserve a past that never existed. They see that 1950s ideal, and 1950s was great if you were white, upper middle class, and straight. If you were black, watch The Help. It wasn't so great. If you were gay, you didn't exist. Or you were being arrested and your life ruined for going to a bar. Progress, it's just, for me, if you don't want people to be happy, then mind your own business. But conservatives want everybody but themselves to not have anything. It's just a status quo issue. It's like the gay conservatives who are voting Republican. They're saying my marriage issues are not as important as how little taxes I pay. Your money is more important to you than your life. I don't get it.
What is Dan Cathy's? What do you think Dan Cathy seems to want to gain from this?
I think Dan Cathy made a mistake. I think that's his fundamental belief, because I think the man is unhappy. I mean, he's obviously interpreted the Bible incorrectly, or he's interpreted his way, and that is a choice, but he's interpreted it through hatred. I think if he had really thought about it, and if he had talked to his PR people, he wouldn't have said it. I don't think he would have said it publicly.
Well, don't you think that he also said it in an environment where he thought it was going to really kind of be safe?
I think he said it in an environment that he thought it was going to be safe, and I also think that he thought he had more people on his side than he does.
However, I was horrified and amazed at the amount of people that did come out on Appreciation Day. I was, and really was disheartened by the fact that so many people came out that they had to wait for hours to get that chicken sandwich.
But Richard, are you really surprised?
Yes.
I'm not.
I was.
Because I think one of the things that you and I
thought
do...
that we have come a lot further than that, and I thought that you, me, Daniel, and my friends, and his friend, and their friends, all had friends that were really supportive, that really want us to have marriage rights, that really want us to have equality, that really respect the fact that that being gay is not a choice, one, and that, two, it really is okay.
I think we do have those supporters. I really do. I think we've got a lot of people who
There were a lot of people that posted on Facebook that were friends to LGBT people and the cause.
Right. There are a lot of straight people out there who support us. And I think it's more. And the polls now are saying the country is now tipped 51%.
Sure.
When you have something like one of those horrible appreciation days where people can go out and say, I'm going to buy food to show that I hate you, which is what they did, whether they recognize it or not. When they went out to buy food to say that I hate you, yeah, you're going to get a mass group of people. And you're going to get the fringe elements. And this is a big country. We got 300 million people. So when you take even 1% of the country showing up to that thing, you would have lines for days. So that's where it all came from.
Sure.
I think that the majority of people are sadly like the voters in this country, which means they're staying home and they're not doing anything. They're posting on Facebook and saying, oh, I support you, but are you going to go out and vote for Obama and say, I support the president who supports gay marriage? Because ultimately in my life, there are things I don't like about Obama. I wish he was as liberal as they were saying he was. He's a moderate, middle-of-the-road president. I really wish he was doing the things that the conservatives are accusing him of doing. But, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I really
absolutely.
wish, fine, if he's a socialist, let's have some socialism. Capitalism sure hadn't worked. Fine, let him be a socialist. But he's not doing those things, and I wish he was. But he did say he supports gay marriage. So for gay people, that's your only choice, folks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out and vote for a conservative who says, I'm going to repeal marriage rights and make you less of a person, and you're going to vote for him because you think that Your money is more important than your human rights.
And I'm going to reinstall Don't Ask, Don't Tell,
Right,
and
right.
or reinstate Don't Ask, Don't Tell. All kinds of really anti-rhetoric,
Right.
anti-gay rhetoric.
So I just, there's
Measure.
people I just want to strangle, and say, this is not acceptable. And, my friend Dawn said the other day, she said she sent out a letter to her friends, and she made it very clear. If you're a friend of gays and you're going out and voting for somebody who says, I'm going to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I'm going to make sure that gays can't get married, you might as well just tell them I'm not really your friend, and I do think you're less than I am. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. And so that's why I was so disheartened by so many people
But you
in
saw that
line
video.
at
Look at
Chick-fil-A.
them. Look at them.
Yeah.
I get confused, and I think you get confused, and a lot of us get confused, because most of our friends are literate, most of our friends are intelligent and educated. And we forget that the majority of the country out there is not very literate, not very educated, and is running scared. And things like Chick-fil-A Day are perfect for them. So, and I'm always shocked, on a social network site, I'm always shocked when I get feedback that's really hateful and negative towards me, aren't you? And it's like, wait a minute, this is insane. Why are you saying these ugly things? And then I realized, on Facebook, I've been selectively, or any Twitter or wherever I am, I've been selectively deleting people I don't want to hear from. And people say, well, you're closed-minded. No, I'm not. I just don't want you to tell me